Well, you made it to step number 4 when it comes to how do we go about building a generous culture in the life of your church. And the way I would sum up this step is find fun ways, innovative ways to engage your community of believers to think and to act more generously. Here's 4 key ways that you can kind of go about helping that principle become a reality in the life of your church. Number 1, your technology matters. You want to do everything you possibly can to make it easy for people to actually give. Now, the days of probably passing the plate down the rows is kind of gone since COVID has hit, but there are a lot of different and great ways to make it easy for people to give. More than ever, people are experienced in engaging when it comes to digital giving options. And so you want to make sure that you have every opportunity when it comes to digital giving up and running. Make it easy for people to set up reoccurring gift from their bank account to the church. Have that link and even directions directly on your website that walk people step by step how they can actually go about setting that up. Second of all is have an online giving option on your church website as well, and include in that designated opportunities for them to give designated gifts towards things that their heart naturally trends towards. It may be children's ministry, it may be overseas missions, but you want to make sure that you give some of those type of options for people to give as well. And then also when it comes to technology, think about text to give and setting up a quick link for them to be able to text directly a gift to the church. Many options will make it so much easier. We also include, for those that are kind of the old school way, that want to give the check or they want to give the cash, we now have the giving box in the back instead of actually passing the plates down the aisle. Number 2, you need to tell people what you want for them more than what you want from them. People will embrace this idea of generosity when they recognize that there's actually some personal development. They will experience some new things, some breakthroughs in their own life, and experience God's unique blessing in their life when they begin to set aside and make Him number 1 in this area of their life. So many tendencies in the local church that we ask people to give, but we never actually connect the dots of what they're going to experience when they embrace generosity as a part of their lifestyle. People need to understand what's in it for them and for them to be able to begin to embrace this with a more open-minded response. Number 3, challenge people just to live differently than their current culture when it comes to money. There's 2 things that tend to drive our financial decisions in our life: fear and greed. Fear and greed. Challenge your people not to be that when it comes to the way that they approach their finances. God did not give us a spirit of timidity, but one of self-discipline, of love. And that's what we want to embrace. We are a people of faith. I'll talk about more of that in our next step, but we need to make sure that we have direct conversation and we challenge our people to live out faith versus fear or being driven by personal greed. What helps us overcome greed and selfishness in our life? Embracing a lifestyle of generosity. And again, this is in every area of our life. This is with our time, this is with our talent, this is with our touch, and this is also with our treasure. So be direct, preach about it, talk about it, have one-on-one conversations, but challenge people, hey, part of being a follower of Jesus is we commit to being different. Not weird, but we have to commit to being different than the rest of the culture. And we're not driven and value the same things that the rest of our culture values and are driven by. And then lastly, number 4, consider engaging your high capacity givers. This comes back to a previous point I talked about. It is important. I would encourage you as a pastor, as a leadership team, to understand where your top givers are. Who are your top givers in your life? And there's only one way for you to actually get that, is to have some type of consistent, regular reporting that allows you to see and understand who are my top 20 givers. And again, this will help you when it comes to overall leadership, knowing who's truly bought in. But there's also a couple other reasons why. Number 1, I had a seasoned pastor years ago told me that anytime you get an email or a letter that's kind of, let's say they're coming after you and they're very hypercritical about your leadership and what's going on in the life of the church, he told me you need to pull their giving statement. And what I found out was 100% of the time, get that, 100% of the time that I got one of those type of letters or emails, that person had given $0 to the life of our church. Well, that really helped me understand at what level of criticism what level should I accept their criticism in my life and the leadership of the church. Sure, there might be little sparks of truth that I want to learn from, but the reality is I learned very quickly they're not with me anyways. They've never truly invested in the life of the church, and it made it not as it wasn't something that I hyper focused on as I would if I didn't understand where they actually were when it came to their overall giving. And so their criticism became a little easier to release versus just sit and ponder for a significant amount of time. The second thing, again, it comes back to who are we looking at helping us build the overall culture and experience in life of the church. We want people that are living it out, that can lead by example as our key leaders. And then part of this of engaging your high capacity givers is it allows you to speak into their life and discipleship. It's not, we don't engage them and sit down and have conversations in order to get more from them, but we need to see that this area of their life opens the door for us to include and engage them in other areas of their discipleship journey as well. And one of the things I've just tried to do is on a yearly basis, sit down and have a one-on-one conversation with my top highest capacity givers. And sometimes they'll go, "What? The only reason why you're sitting down with me is because I gave a big amount this year." I said, "No, I just want to say thank you. I thank people for their volunteer time. I thank people for using their gifts and their talents in the life of our church. I also want to take a moment and just thank those that give at a high level in the life of our church. We wouldn't be able to do the things that we do and see the life change that we're seeing if it wasn't for individuals like you that buy in at a high level in the life of our church." And so I just want to say thank you. And is there anything that you just want to know about our church or even about us personally in this season that I'd be able to, share and include you in that decision making? And I just found that people really do appreciate the opportunity to be thanked. And so I want to encourage you, engage your high capacity givers, sit them down on a yearly basis and tell them thank you. And then there are moments in the life of your church where you may need to see big breakthrough. I can think of one moment in the life of our church where we were at over capacity when it came to our children's ministry. And it was hard for our adults to understand because the ratio of the room that the adults sat in didn't coordinate to the same ratio of what our children's ministry. In other words, I could talk about our children's ministry is busting at the seams, and all the adults could look around the room and go, "Well, we got more room here." And so that became problematic. And I remember one of the times that we felt like the next stage we needed to do in the life of our church was we needed to put some portable classrooms on site in order to make room for our ever expanding children's ministry. And we found out that for us to be able to actually do that, it would cost us $10,000 per portable to get it dropped on our site. And then there was a monthly cost. But in order to get the initial setup, we found it was going to be about $10,000. And I just felt like in that moment that God was telling me that this isn't just a whole church moment, but this is a leadership moment to engage our high capacity givers and just make a big ask. And so I stood up in the front of the room on a Sunday morning, just talked about our need. We celebrated it, said, "Guys, this is exactly the kind of problems that we would love to have. Here's what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking two people in the life of our church, would you give a $10,000 gift to help us actually get this done sooner than later?" And then I gave people an out. If you can't give that kind of gift, relax. I'm not talking to you. But there are people in our congregation that I believe can make that kind of gift. And if that's you, I would love to be able to talk with you afterwards. Would you consider doing that? And believe it or not, yes, I was afraid to make that ask, but I was convinced that God was actually calling me to do that. At the end of the day, we actually got 3 $10,000 gifts that were given. And again, it comes back to explain the why more than the what, and help people understand that you can be a part of God's solution in moving the mission of what God has called us to be about further down the road. Celebrate the moment, thank people, and engage your high capacity givers. But it all comes back to step number 4, engage your believers and help them understand why this is important.